Right. Who on the panel wants to kick off with Plan B?
I'll start with that.
Yeah.
The Scottish Government, when it was establishing the White Paper, set up a fiscal commission. Fiscal commission was populated by international economists, including 2 Nobel laureate prize winners, one of whom is a guy called Jim Mirrlees, referred to by Michelle Thompson. Now, they looked at 4 different scenarios. They looked at the euro and discounted, they looked at sterling, they looked at a Scottish currency pegged to sterling, and they looked at a flexible Scottish currency. Now, they said in terms of the economic capability of Scotland, we could deliver any of those options, but the preferred option was the shared currency union with the rest of the United Kingdom. And people can agree or disagree, but that's what they recommended. Interesting, Jim Mirrlees has got an article in today's Scotsman setting that out. When Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, came to Scotland, he quoted 2 economists that had inspired him, Adam Smith and also Jim Mirrlees. And in terms, therefore, of the advice that we've had from the experts, that's what their recommendation is, not just for Scotland, but for the rest of the UK. Why do I think that George Osborne's campaign rhetoric, because I think that's what it is today, will start to unravel from his perspective? In terms of exports from the rest of the United Kingdom to Scotland, the value is £59 billion. It's going to cost English and Welsh businesses £500 million for the announcement that he's just made just there. And in terms of the strength of it, in terms of the strength of the pound, it is underpinned by the revenue and the capability that we have in North Sea oil and gas to the tune of £30 billion. So if you take that out, you're taking out a huge hole in their balance of trade. And so therefore the emphasis and the focus on that decision he's made will start to come and impact on him. And why do I think that's going to happen? Well, just a couple of weeks ago, you'll have noticed that Danny Alexander announced that the UK government was going to acknowledge to the markets that the £1.3 trillion worth of debt legally issued to the UK government would be the responsibility of the UK government. Now, we're also responsible. We think we should share assets and liabilities, and that includes servicing the debt. But also with servicing the debt and taking our responsibility, we have the share of the assets. And the Bank of England is as much our asset as it is the rest of the UK. Now, will there be negotiations? Of course, there'll be a whole range of negotiations that will take place. But a Westminster government in campaign mode no now will be different than the state day one after a yes vote. And then finally, so therefore there are, I said, in terms of your points, are there other options? Well, the Fiscal Commission looked at the other options and have recommended and provided advice on each of them. So that's already laid out. And finally, just I'll answer number 3 as well on the independent constitution. We think there should be a constitution written by the people. One of the travesties of the British state is that there is no written constitution. And one of the proudest moments of my life was in July last year when I was invited by the descendants of the authors of the American Declaration of Independence to speak in Independence Hall on the 4th of July. And what a moment that was. And imagine doing that in an independent Scotland, written by the Scots, for the Scots. And I think that has to be as open and as inclusive as possible. And I think that's also about shaping and forming a new nation. It's not just about getting a yes vote, it's about what we shape and form. And written constitution will be very much part and parcel of that new Scotland.
Thanks. Anybody else on Plan B?
Yeah, because I don't agree with the Scottish Government position, and I don't. I mean, the Fiscal Commission was strategic rather than policy, in my view. We work with a lot of economists developing these proposals, and most of the people who want to build a progressive Scotland would say sterling, if we have it, should not be for long. We should be transitioning to another currency. There's actually still some case to say that maybe in 5 years the euro might be an option. I rather doubt it. What I would do straight away is begin with the clear point, and I haven't got time to go into this. I've been blogging personally on this one in Come On Scotland, CMO on scotland.org. You can go and have a look at this in some more detail. Our negotiations are going to be so easy. There's a simple principle of negotiation. If the other side wants more than you do, you set the terms. And the thing that we've not been saying properly in Scotland is that the rest of the UK has nothing we really want. Sterling, maybe. Apart from that, we could go away now. We could just head off. We have everything we need. On the other hand, they are absolutely desperate for us to take some share of the debt. Now, Scotland will not be taking any share of the debt, and it's important that people understand this. We will make an agreement to send them down some aid payments. I propose the British aid payments. I think we should maybe question whether we give it direct to London. I'm actually quite in favour of saying, why don't we send it to the north of England, Wales, Cornwall, Northern Ireland? But this is a technical point. They decided to reject international precedent on the separation of states. They said Scotland is not a continuing state, we lose all our rights. Okay, that's fine. Actually, in some ways, that's a good thing. But we're not a successor state when it suits you, and a continuing state when it doesn't. There is no default. We can walk away, and if it wasn't for the fact that I'm a highly moral person and don't want to leave my comrades in England and Wales and Northern Ireland screwed, we would just go. We would just go with no debt. There will be no. It's not a default. There will be no credit market reaction. We will borrow money with no difficulty. We have to say this over and over again. We have lots of things that they want. They have nothing we want. Feel confident about that. What I think we should probably do, though, is just go straight away, convert a large chunk of the, make them be unreasonable about sterling, convert a large chunk of the debt immediately into foreign exchange currency, create the Scottish pound and use the foreign exchange fund to peg it to sterling. So it'll be the same name, it'll look the same, and it'll have the same value, but we control it. That's what we should do. On jobs, I want to give a very, very quick analogy. Imagine that you wanted to get things built and you're in a nursery school. So you're running a nursery school, you want to get stuff built. What would you do? Would you let the biggest kids shove the other kids out of the way and hoard the Lego? No, because they wouldn't build anything. They'd just hoarding and grabbing and shoving becomes the game. That's the British economy. If you wanted to get your wains to build stuff, you spread the Lego more evenly. Some will hoard, lots will build. Now, that's how you get stuff built. Very roughly, that's how we create jobs in this country. At the moment, we let all of our income, all of our wealth, all of our equity, all of our capital be held by a tiny number of multinational corporations. They only use that money to extract wealth from us. What we need to do is to create an economy which creates the wealth. That's what creates the jobs. To do that, what we have to have is much more local business, local trade and local manufacture, as well as export manufacture. So what you've got to do is fundamentally change the economy. We have high unemployment problems because of our economic model. If you look at anyone that follows the kind of model that we are talking about, the Nordic countries, they don't have that problem because they're productive, because the public sector, which is strong because of tax take, can create a lot of jobs too. And just very quickly on Constitution, I'm delighted about the Constitution. I think it's a great thing. I'm actually not a constitutional geek. I get very people get really disappointed about this when I answer this question. I'm not really that fussed. I'm a good old Presbyterian Scot. I think you get up in the morning, you work hard, you go to bed, you start again. The idea that you can get a constitution, write it, and switch autopilot, a lot of people have kind of got that into their head. I don't think it's true. But I think it's still a wonderful thing that we have it. I think it's a wonderful thing that we can write as a nation. And the only thing that I would like to say is just a reminder to political elites now and forever. I would have the first words in our constitution just state, the state and the government are an agreement between its citizens. So long as the citizens support that state, it continues, and so long as they don't, it doesn't. But beyond that, to be quite honest, like I say, my focus is from, I'm not going to say September the 19th, because I expect to be hungover for at least 3 days, but from certainly early October, my focus is really about saying, this is great, now we've got the powers, let's build the active and participative democracy that delivers. And there are some wonderful constitutional people who will work in the Constitution.
Just a couple of points to add to that. In terms of the sterling zone, there will be a currency union. As far as I was concerned, what George Osborne was saying today was just politics. He's playing a game. He's relying on the fact, yes, scaremongering, that most people won't have considered it very carefully. I mean, the reasons, as Robin says, for them are utterly compelling. The UK is actually, well, we're already in a currency zone. We're already in a currency union, rather, and the reasons are utterly compelling, some of which Fiona mentioned, but he talked about stability and commerce, and given this kind of focus on commerce, why would you endanger the level of trade that Scotland does with England when you're talking about £5 billion per month, which we calculate around 700,000 jobs are dependent on? Why would you take out 40 billion from Scotland's share, the balance of payments, Why would you introduce additional transaction costs around 500 million a month? It just doesn't make sense. It's politicking. And as Fiona says, I mean, the moves from the UK Treasury around the debt, I wondered today whether he'd been bounced into that position. Strategically, I think it's a significantly wrong move for them, because it gives us 7.5 months to quash and get the facts back on the table rather than scaremongering. But obviously, I'm delighted they've chosen to make that move. I think it serves us very well. In terms of jobs, to my mind, from my perspective, we're not talking about replacing a Westminster system and putting it in Edinburgh. What we tend to forget in Scotland is that 99.3% of our businesses are SMEs, and 98.3% of them are small businesses, in other words, 0 to 49 people. And we've got systems here, we've got very inefficient tax systems. As soon as a business gets half good, it's immediately clobbered with VAT. I mean, it's almost like virtually impossible to get out of the bit. And we've tended to look at business very much from the prism of the kind of multinationals, the big kind of global companies. And in reality, that's not what Scotland's about. So there's lots of things with these additional fiscal levers that we can do. We'll probably be spoilt for choice. And actually, the questions will be, what are the immediate things that will make a real difference and a real significant difference? In terms of the Constitution, I disagree with Robin here. I actually think that's really important, because to my mind, what I said earlier on about confidence, we have suffered from a chronic lack of confidence, particularly people of a certain age that have been brought up to believe something. Setting out a constitution that states and that the people, all of us, have the chance to contribute to and engage in is a very, very important marker to me about setting out the values and principles that we believe in and that we'll adhere to. Us, the sovereign people of Scotland, I just think it's incredibly important, because that's something living, breathing, that will stay with us and sets out our stall and differentiates us from this kind of madness that we've been in as part of the UK.
Yeah, can I just say, first of all, to thank the gentleman for his question, because to be honest, a meeting like this that didn't discuss that issue, there'd been an elephant in the room, wouldn't there? It's right that we discuss it. This is the big issue of the moment. And I have to say to you, does anybody smell cordite? Does anybody smell gunpowder? Because that's what today was. It was the firing of a gun by George Osborne. And I have to say to you, George Osborne comes to the point to tell this morning at 9 o'clock, and he tells the people of Scotland that you can't use the pound. And the people of Scotland's reply at 9 o'clock is, try stopping us. No posh boy from London is going to come up here and tell us what we can and can't do, because you weren't bred for it, pal. We'll do what we decide is the right thing to do. And I say this to you, I think the questioner hints at it. This is clearly about economics and military policy, but it's also, let's be absolutely clear about it, this is naked politics. This is 13th of February. Why does it come today? Why today, to the point of tell, at 9 o'clock in the morning? Do you think it's anything to do with the fact that the last 6 opinion polls, one after another, showed that the Yes campaign has taken a 5% lead out of Alistair Darling's backside? That's why he's here. It's because they're terrified. They're terrified, and I have to say, right from the beginning, I won't allow anybody here to underestimate these people. Don't underestimate them. They're fighting for their privileges. They're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for their chance and their right, as they see it, to control our lives. Don't judge them that there's some pushover. They're going to throw everything at us in the next 7 months, and we should be ready for it. And I was ready for today. And I have to say to you, it's more about politics than it is about monetary policy. But unless the questioner thinks that we're ducking the issue, my feeling is that the position that the Yes campaign has argued, that we want a sterling zone, that's a transitional arrangement to make sure that we move from the 18th of September to the 19th of September. Trading, the economy's in the same position. There are plenty of things that we're going to change. But I have to say, like Robin and others, I believe that it's a transitional arrangement, that we move too quickly. Another arrangement, a more profound arrangement, where we have our own currency that gives us the power to control our own monetary and fiscal policy. And we'll do that, and we'll do that at a time that we're good and ready for it. And I think that's the conclusion to draw about today. Two quick things. I think the question you asked is really important. My daughter's just gone to Edinburgh University. She's at Liberton High School. Not quite. That last June, I go to the prize giving, there's 30, 40 of them, they're all leaving. And of course, well, you're ready. John Telke was born 1959, so you know I'm more than 21. Anyway, I remember when I was at school, at Motherwell, a ladies' high school in Motherwell, and on an occasion like that, everybody was going to work. There was jobs for everybody in the steel industry. The Royal Bank of Scotland used to take on thousands of tellers at the end of the school term. There was the tax centre, there was the council, there was the civil service. There was jobs for everybody. My daughter left Liberton High School. Not one of them was going to work. Not one of them. There was no jobs for any of them. And I tell you what, anybody here, don't allow anybody to tell you kids today have got it easy. You're arse.
No way.
They're harder now growing up than it's ever been before. Because these are kids that have no jobs to go to. What happens? They go to college and university and offset the time when they try to get a job. And youngsters who leave school with no qualifications in this city face an absolutely terrible prospect, because as bad as it is, the jobs market, there's 50,000 students in the city who have to work to get through university and college, and they're taken on before the school leavers. It's murder. So I'll tell you what the answer is. I'm a socialist. I believe in full employment, the right to work in the Constitution. Everybody should have the right to work. The left always believed in that. It's not as if there's not plenty of jobs today. Look around you. Look at the elderly care centres. No enough staff. Look at the shops you go to. When you're queuing up, no enough staff to serve you. We look around the city. There's not enough people working. There's plenty of jobs to be done. And independence is about saying there's plenty of jobs to be done. We're going to allocate the work to ensure that everybody's got a job. And on top of that, in case you think that's just enough, no, we have to eradicate poverty wages. We should have a living wage that goes along with that job. A living wage that people are not working for less than £9 an hour in this city. You can't pay your rent. You can't pay your bills at less than £9 an hour. And that's what independence is about. There's a constitution for you. A constitution that should be written. What's in it? Your right to a job. Your right to a house. Your right to education, your right not to be in fuel poverty, your right to equality. We look around the world, as Robin and his colleagues have done. I'll tell you what they 21st century. We'll send Robin and Fiona and Michelle around the world. They'll stay at home. We'll send them around the world and they'll look for best practice. Best practice in all the countries in the world of their constitutions, and then bring it back and say, in New Scotland, the newest country in the world, the best constitution in the world. We're going to copy what the people do right in places elsewhere in the world, and we're going to ditch the rubbish. That's the Scotland to live in, eh? Yeah.